Hello and welcome to Dice with Death, the podcast where anyone could die with the roll of a dice. I am not your direct messenger, Ollie Bateman. I am Amy Mallet, who plays Vixen on the main campaign. And with me today are my boys.
Hey!
We don't know how to do this without Ollie, do we?
It's weird, isn't it? It's weird. It's an odd one.
It's really unusual, isn't it? Ollie's actually, he's had to be called into work.
Like a supply teacher's in charge.
Yeah, it does feel like that. I do feel like a supply teacher. I feel like I ain't got control of the room, you know? Anything could happen. It could be absolute scenes at a moment's notice. Ollie's been called into work, guys, so we're kind of going rogue, and we're just going to do a bit of a no dice with your questions. So we popped out a tweet earlier today asking for any questions for the party. And this is our chance to give you answers to those questions. So thanks to anyone who tweeted in. Before we get going, I guess I will introduce you guys properly. He plays a bird person with no canonical last name, as Ollie would say. Please welcome Jamie, who plays Ark.
It's weird to do this without Ollie. We hope this episode isn't a folly. Awful rhyme.
Amazing. But you put that together really quick. So.
Thank you. I'll take that.
And in the red corner, we have Titus Thunderbastard Caligavi, a.k.a. Adam Wilborn.
I'm Titus, the only one who hasn't died. Don't be bitter. Who'd have thought that this podcast would outlast Twitter?
Oh, no.
That's a low blow right now. Are you guys on Hive? Have you tried Hive?
I'm on Hive at Jimmo1987. If you want to join me on there, I've got no photos up there. I don't know how to work it. I can't change my profile picture. There we go.
We are our dads trying to use MySpace now, aren't we?
Yeah, honestly, I saw all these people saying, "Oh, I'm on Hive. Oh, I'm on Mastodon," and I was too old for TikTok anyway. I was like, nah, it's one of those ones where you just go, "This is like my mum going on Facebook. I'm not doing it," and now I'm just going to wait till everyone decides if Twitter is dead, where we're going next, and then I'll go on there. But you were saying it's like MySpace in terms of you can have a song on your profile, can't you?
You can have a song on your profile.
It's a lot of
like back in the
pressure
day.
still. Why do I feel the pressure of that?
I quite like that, though, because it was almost like decorating a digital bedroom back in the day, wasn't it? It was kind of like you had your own little space carved out online that you could sort of... I don't think I've missed it necessarily, but now you've put it tantalisingly in front of me again, Jamie. I'm like, oh, what song would represent me now in 2022?
That's the question. What song would represent you right now? What would you go for? Because I like to, actually thinking about it, I would quite like an embarrassing song because it obviously auto-plays. So I'd like to think of someone on the bus and then they hear like I Touch Myself by whoever sung that song.
Oh God, Samantha Fox.
There we go.
Oh no, hang on, that's a different song. That's a different song. But yeah, I Touch Myself. I think of you and I touch myself.
That's the one. That's not that tune, but yeah, it's the lyrics. Close enough.
I'd probably have the thong song because of course I would. I can almost hear Ollie just being like, I remember we went to a wedding recently where we had a nice photo shoot actually for the podcast. You can see those photos online and on our website. And Ollie was, I just remember Ollie really, really drunk was like, you're obsessed with the thong song. And I was like, that is my arc.
Well, good news and bad news. I've searched I Touch Myself and instantly regretted it because why would I type that into a search engine aside from wrecking my algorithm. Divinals, that sounds about right, doesn't it? Yeah,
sounds right. Yeah.
I'd have WAP, Wet Ass Pussy playing on the
old WAP would suit you actually. WAP would be great for you.
It's a banger. It was on my Spotify most played the year it came out, whenever that was, a couple of years ago. I loved it. It's a banger.
I mean, I'm not surprised because you kept quoting it at one point during Dice and Death, didn't you? There was a moment where you were talking about if he eats ass, he's a bottom feeder. Oh,
it's
man.
poetry
well,
is what
anyway,
it is. Yeah.
It is poetry. It absolutely is poetry. Do you like my Ollie attempt at like controlling the crowd there? Just like, anyway.
It is
anyway,
poetry.
yeah.
Go on, what's the next question?
I think we should kick off with our question from the captain. So, first of all, thank you, the captain at DMCity619 for your question. And your question was, have the gang surprised themselves with how well they've got to grips with their characters and with some of the emotional things that have happened to them? Ooh, anybody want to dive in on that first?
I would say yeah. And the captain, Dwayne. It's Dwayne, I think. If
Is
I
it
got your name
Dwayne?
wrong,
Oh,
Dwayne. Sorry,
Dwayne.
Dwayne. If it's not Dwayne, it's Dwayne though, isn't it? Yeah, no, I think I have actually. I think we've got to some quite deep emotional stuff kind of straight away with Ollie as DM. I wasn't expecting it to be as, all your family are dead, but it's kind of got that way, which is, interesting. It's weird, isn't it, when you do this sort of stuff? Because I think that I'm really into kind of like the mechanics of the game. And, I used to really kind of enjoy a bit of acting back in the day when I was at school and stuff. And it's just really nice to kind of like stretch your legs a bit. And I don't think I'm particularly a great actor or anything like that, or kind of really get into the mood sometimes. But I think I've surprised myself.
I also think as well, like, I actually, going off that's quite a nice segue, you saying that you don't feel like you're a very good actor. I think I've surprised myself for sure in how well I've emotionally connected to my character, but you've all also surprised me. Like, there have been 90% of the episodes we dick around, and we take great pride in dicking around, but there are moments where, like with the stuff where we found out about your kids and everything that happened, and we kind of shared that mental connection. Like, it was a genuinely really solemn moment. Like, if people had been here on the Zoom call, you would have seen, like, me and Adam were just like, fuck, this is... And even Ollie, despite, being the person who had instigated this narrative journey, he was like, damn, you guys are really affected by this. So, yeah, I think you're a better actor than you think, actually, Jamie. You've really... Some of the deepest moments have been with things that you've kind of said and you've done, and I've gone, oh, wow, he is this character.
Adam, as the... Would you say you're classically trained as an actor?
Yeah, I think I've treaded the boards a few times. Yeah. The thing I found, and I mentioned this in one of the early No Dices, is like we'd said before that Jamie and I have played. How I got into it was we first sort of played with a few mates, and that was pretty much just like, right, we're going to run around, cut some people's heads off, and just have a bit of a laugh because lockdown's incredibly depressing. So I think if you'd have said to me, okay, right, now not only are we going to, take it a lot more seriously and record it and, let other people listen to it, but the fact you're going to go on this emotional journey, I think it would have been a bit nerve-wracking. But I think the beauty I've found with it all is you just talk from you don't have to like get into character. You just think, well, you've based your character, aside from the fact that James is not a bird, but, like... You've based your character, for the most part, or the emotions of your character on yourself.
He does shit in the street, though.
Yes. I found that it's just quite easy, in fact, to just sort of talk from the heart about stuff. I like initially when we had the sort of early stuff with Ark and Zach, I did find it a little bit awkward and just was like, right, I'll just be the comic relief then.
Yeah, you were. You were groaning in the background, weren't you? You're having this serious heart-to-heart. But then, like, later on, like, when obviously what happened with Ark happened, and, I carry this, I'm going to show this now on our little Zoom call. I carry this as a reminder every time, just in case... It's a health potion.
Adam is referring to the health potion that he had but didn't give me, which caused me to die. But at the same time, Adam, I said disengaged instead of... No, I said dodge instead of disengage. So I would have been alive if I said the right word.
Yes.
Wow.
It's
We've
your
come
fault,
so
really.
far to accept that. Yeah, this is a counselling session that's come full circle with you two.
So I felt a little bit guilty about that, but it was so weird because, like, I think on the outside, if someone was like, oh my... Whether it's... D&D or computer games or whatever, and someone's like, oh, my like character died the other day, or there was at least a chance of it completely being wiped off the earth and you have to start a new character fresh, I think I'd have been like, oh well, at least you get to just go and be like, I'm going to be a bard this time or whatever. Like, that's just fun, you can just try different things. No, I've been on a journey with Ark and Zach, and I don't want to just be like, oh, cool, here's a new member of the gang to replace the one who's dead now. But also...
This is really awkward, guys. Say what you really mean.
Yeah, but also, I've found that, like when I walked in after one of our sessions. Well, my wife didn't take this too seriously, but I walked in. She was like, "Everything all right?" I was like, "Not really. My dad's just died in D&D," and she's like, "What? Oh, okay, in D&D." But like talking about Makin, and then like talking to Nakin, my uncle, the Winter Wolf. It really it brought out a side of me that I quite enjoyed doing. Plus, to get back to like the things that I've got to grips with, you know, as part of my day job, I watch wrestling a lot of the time, and I watch wrestlers cut promos and things like that. I've bloody loved have Titus cut promos on people, whether it be, you know, talking to my uncle, or, you know, going after and getting face to face again with Volok and things like that. I've really enjoyed, you know, cutting my teeth with promos and things like that, and just really hyping everyone up or getting my point across. So I've really enjoyed it. But it's far from over, this quest, I sense.
It is far from over. It truly is. And I think you have also developed, like you say, so much. Actually, that's a really good point you made about coming so far from literally groaning in the background of like emotional scenes because you're like, to that showdown that you have where you talk to Nakin, you talk to your uncle. Like, that was some of the, I think, the best, most emotional stuff to date was you confronting him over that. And sort of like taking back your honor and everything. And yeah, I mean, you probably wouldn't have done that in the early stages because you would have felt self-conscious, but you've really grown into that character. So yeah.
Ames, what was it like for you playing two different characters?
It was really strange because I genuinely was attached to Zach, and I felt like I was going to be with her for a lot longer of the journey that we had together. And I sort of, I mean, like you said a minute ago about your dad, you know, and your wife kind of being like, oh, okay. I got into bed that night and was like, I've died. And Leo was just like, what? That's my partner. And I remember sort of saying to him, like, it feels weird. It sort of feels like I've lost, like, a part of me. And you don't get that, I think, in video games. Like you say, you can make a character and you can sort of, like, put a lot into it. But because this character is your voice, they are your brain, they are kind of like everything from an improv standpoint, and you spend so much time playing in that sandbox of D&D as that character. It really did truly feel like I mourned Zach for like a good couple of weeks. And then moving on to Vixen, again, it's like, it's fun in the sense of, oh, I'm happy to be in the game, I'm happy to be like trying a new costume on, but there is that slight sadness of like, I think I still sometimes think about, how would Zach act in that situation? So there is that weird duality of like playing two people. They almost inhabit you. It's almost like, oh, okay, that character is still a part of me in some way. It is, yeah, it's really interesting. It took me a while to get used to the idea of being someone else.
With Ollie not being here, I'm just going to ask some stuff that I probably wouldn't, or I don't want to risk him hearing it. Obviously, he can listen to the podcast, but
oh no, I love this, Ads. I love this. Go for it.
Jamie, as an experienced D&D player, I'm always carrying a torch for Squiddy, of course, who's not dead. But is there any way we could see Zach again, or should I just give that up now? Because we always felt like it wasn't. That's it. She's gone forever. It's this, you know, corporeal, you know, realm or whatever it's called. This. She's not. I don't know. Should I just give this hope up? Obviously, the Vixen character has been integral with what's going on recently, but I don't know. I'm still holding a candle for, you know, Zach coming back and finishing off what she started.
Just to add to that as well, as my character, I would love to see Zach back. I think it'd be great to have Zach back. But very much a big fan of Alicia. So mechanically, yeah, you can really easily bring someone back. There's actually a really great blog that I wrote for. I might have put it on our website, or if not, it's on dungeonsandingbats.com. So just about kind of death and it's on our website. It's at dicewithdeath.co.uk. Nice. Just about the finality of death, and there's a couple of spells you can use. So there's a really great spell which is really interesting called Reincarnate, and that is you bring someone back from the dead, but that dead person has to roll on a table, and depending on what they roll is the race that they come back in. come back as.
That is really cool. Proper reincarnation.
So
I love that.
as a Goliath, you could come back as a dwarf kind of thing. It's that sort of thing.
The other end of the spectrum.
You've also got Raise Dead, which is a really interesting spell because it's not a good spell and it really casts a toll on someone. So you come back, but you've got like so many levels of exhaustion and you can't function as well as you did before you were reincarnated. And then you've got like true reincarnation, or I've forgot what it's called now. There's one which basically you just come back as yourself. It doesn't matter how long you've been. Well, you need to have died within the last 1,000 years and you can come back, kind of thing.
I love how 1,000 years is the cut-off point.
Yeah, loads of ways.
After 1,000 years, no one else is alive to remember you. So at that point, you're gone.
and it's like it's a fantasy world, isn't it? And
I
think you can do whatever you want. I guess it's really it's in Amy's court, really, if she ever comes back.
Yeah, it is, and it's an interesting one because I had a lot of conversations with Ollie about whether just to kind of come back as Zach or come back as a different character, because I think we've had this conversation before, and I will actually read that article because I'm sure I know the one you mean, because I remember sort of seeing it actually on our website, because we did a collab, didn't we, with Dungeons and Dingbats at one point?
Yeah, we did.
And I remember being like, pin that to read it at some point. And I think the idea of death in this game is fascinating, and me and you, Jamie, had the chat before. We were like, we feel like death should be finite because there should be stakes.
Yeah.
And that is something I still feel quite passionately about. But similarly, I love Zach and I want her to finalise that story. I would love that to happen. And that's kind of why Vixen came about, was because it was a part of Zach that she could sort of carry on, who could kind of fulfil her legacy in that way. But yeah, who knows? I mean, it's cool to think that there's not really a ceiling on this. So
kind of related to this question, well, kind of like that question, is one we've got from Alice on Twitter. That's at Ali9719, which rolls off the tongue. Thank you for making me read that out.
You were born in the year 9719.
So yeah, as your characters have grown and developed, is there anything you wished you'd have known about your characters towards the beginning of doing this? Which is probably that's an interesting one for you, AB, because you're not the same character anymore.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question, Alice. I think that is. I suppose really for me it probably goes more functional. It probably goes more practical in the sense of there are mechanics and there are things I probably, if I'd been a more skilled, experienced player, I might have been able to do things differently. And I mean, not necessarily change the outcome of Zach's death, but definitely, I'm sure Ads will agree, there are things that we look back on and we go, if we just known we could do that. So in a very sort of practical sense, I guess there are mechanics and there are things I'd like to know more about having started, and I'm always learning. But in terms of character, that is a really good question. What about you guys?
I wish I'd known that I'd never spoken to Zalu before. That would have been quite useful.
Oh, it was so cool because we just found out on the fly, didn't we?
That was such a good improv. I love that so much.
I've thought about everything else. I've got this page of notes here that I always have, and like the bits of paper that Ollie's given us and sent us and stuff, with all bits and details and stuff on. I always have it just laying around just in case. And then I just was completely unprepared for that, and yeah, it's added a brilliant aspect to it all, but I didn't anticipate it. I think one thing I would change if I could go back to the beginning, again, I'm glad that Ollie's actually not here for this, is, and I think he knows about this now, but if he doesn't, surprise Ollie, is our separate, me, Jamie and Amy, WhatsApp group to be like, right, what strategy are we going in on this episode with? Because a lot of the times we'd sort of, early days, me and Ames would sort of hesitate and defer to Jamie, understandably. But we've sort of strategized a little bit going forward, and I think that's just because I don't fucking trust Ollie, basically.
I don't trust that bitch as far as I can throw him. I hope he listens to this.
I personally, with my character, I didn't really know that much about him. So I knew that he was a faction leader because that was his class kind of thing. He's kind of like background. I knew that he had his kids. I knew the kids' names. I knew he had a wife. I knew that he was dishonorably discharged. And there are 3 great battles that Ark was part of. So they've all got kind of like grandiose names and what Ark did in those battles to become kind of his station of where he was. But that's it. So everything in between, I didn't know up until like, so for example, like all the stuff with Planewalker, that blindsided us both really. So I wouldn't change that at all. I don't think. I'm quite happy with the level of knowledge that I've got of this character because we're kind of like building it all together, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's nice to hear it sort of being not put together on the fly, but yeah, it'd be boring if you were just like it'd be nice to know that Elman Munro was a backstabbing little prick, but that wouldn't have really worked in the story if I hadn't have been like, wait a second, I know that guy. So
do you think we've let Ollie have the right amount of agency with that? Because I feel like that's something I'm quite chuffed with the campaign that we've played, is that Ollie has enough to kind of play with elements of the story without us knowing. So like you say, the Planewalker thing, the fact that Zach and Ark's backstories were so intrinsically linked and we had no idea about that. Obviously, Elman Munro being a little snake. All that stuff is really cool when Ollie kind of comes out with it, and I think it's good because we don't feel unprepared at the same time. We know enough to kind of fit into that situation. But and Ollie's also, you know, I'm not going to sing his praises while he's not here, but he's great at also reading a lot into our backstories and memorizing everything we tell him. He's got 3 characters to do this for, but he's really clever at actually weaving it together in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, how does he rank for you, Jamie, who's someone who's done this a lot more regularly? Because I think he's been, again, not to pat him on the back too much, but I think I could never do what he does, I don't think. Or it certainly would take a lot of work to be able to spin all those plates at the same time. And, you know, to have these plans of like, okay, they'll go here, here, and here, and that'll be, you know, kind of be the episode or whatever. Yeah. And then we spend 20 minutes arsing around and he just goes, right, okay, I'm going to make the executive decision sort of for you. How does he compare, Jamie?
That's a great question. I'd love to know that as well.
Absolutely shit. It's awful. No, he's like one of the best DMs out there. I really enjoy playing with his sessions. I enjoy playing D&D with him, and obviously we got together. We got into D&D at the same time, so we went to the same places. We went to the first kind of starter sessions. So we've always kind of done things together, and we had like a really great little group that we used to kind of co-DM with. So each week we would swap a DM, would go around the group, so everyone would have a go at kind of playing characters. And then what we found out is each one of the DMs would have their own story, and we would swap characters between each story. It was really, really interesting. I think Ollie's great. I think his improv's amazing. Love his accents.
His accents are amazing. I think that's one of the areas that I would fumble, actually, is like keeping in character all the time, especially when he's saying such crazy shit that he does. Like, his accents are fantastic.
And I think like he's put so much work into it. Like, he was I hope he doesn't mind me telling him, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway, and I'm editing it, so who gives a shit? I think he was between jobs for about a month before he started the podcast. So basically, he wrote the entire world. So he knows like pretty much what's on every planet, and he's put a lot of work in. So I think he lets us very much have free reign with the story, but like he knows the key things on each planet and what we need to kind of get to already.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in kind of reverse of that, because I mean, I definitely think for me, it's A, the time, B, the accents, definitely, I'm rubbish at accents, but also just the commitment. Like, Ads, what do you think you would kind of find challenging as a DM? Because I've never done it. Actually, did I do it once? Maybe when I was really young, but it wasn't on this level of D&D. It was it was like trying to control a bunch of 5-year-olds who were just kind of like, I want to do this. I want to lick the dragon. I want to put my dick in this frozen fountain. Like, after a while, you just kind of go, yeah, I'm not really bothered. Like, my friends at school were quite immature. But yeah, I'm just curious, like, what do you think would be your challenges if you were to DM, Ads?
I wouldn't like not being in control, and so I try and steer people too much and be like, why don't you see what's behind that rock or whatever, or why don't you?
That rock's looking pretty enticing right now. Yeah, it just winked at you.
You know, like on computer games when there's like a wall and it's like normal wall, normal wall, normal wall, oh, slightly different looking bit of wall, normal wall, normal wall, and you're like, okay, so that's where I've got to go and hit it with my tools or whatever. That's what it'd be me as a DM of just like, maybe don't go down there, or do go down there, or are you sure you want to go down there alone? Like, I'd also be terrified of killing people off. Like, he's, bloodthirsty. I'd feel bad about, like, haha, you forgot to give Jamie a health potion. He's dead now. Like, oh. I'd be like, are you sure? Like, I'm especially in the first few episodes, I was so nervous about, like, ending my turn, which is, just such a staple bit of it. And I'm just always suspicious of him. That he'd be like, is that all you want to do? And I was like, is that all I want to do? Like, looking at my notes, looking at Jamie on the screen in case he's like going...
Blink twice.
Yeah. And also, I wouldn't like the idea of not being in a separate WhatsApp group that people are scheming against me for, basically.
Oh, yeah. Seeing how we can overthrow Ollie R.R. Martin.
Yeah. And I would just be like, if someone did something like we did, where it was like, like early on when Amy electrocuted 20 odd people or whatever, I'd be like, you fucking ruined that. I had a big thing planned there and you bloody... I'd just get in a huff, basically.
I still can't believe that. I only went for a wee.
Shall I ask another question that we've got sent through?
Yeah, go for it.
This comes from the lovely Ashley Taylor at Inverness_magic, who writes, how are each of you finding playing your classes, and what other classes do you think would butter your parsnips?
I love this. I hope it's a Joe Lycett reference. I really do.
Absolutely.
How many different classes have you played, Jamie?
In my time I've had to go a lot. So I have played. Here we go. So I'm always a cleric. I've always really liked clerics. Wizard. I've done a bit of wizardry. Paladin, which is like a beefed up cleric. Fighter, barbarian. I've never played a rogue, which I'm interested in. Artificer is really good. Really enjoyed Artificer. I love being a cleric. Cleric's my go-to class. It's kind of the easiest class as well for spellcasting. So I am very happy with my bird person. I think if I was going to die, and you can die in this campaign, I would probably play maybe like a blade singer wizard, but having Zach as you're a swords bard, aren't you?
Yes, a vixen as a swords bard. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, so I force the habit, innit?
It is. It might be a bit too close. I might try something different, like an artificer or I really like fighters. Fighters are cool. You'd like fighter, Adam.
Yeah.
You'd like fighter.
Yeah, I liked the fact that I thought mine was... My character is a barbarian who also thinks he's a rogue, and somehow with these dice gets away with it a lot of the time.
He does. He absolutely does, yeah.
Ames, what about you?
A fun thing for me is that actually Vixen... So Druid was kind of where... Actually, I've almost written my characters... I don't know how you guys have done yours, but... my classes almost came out of the backstory, almost came out of the character itself. So Zach was obviously part of the gnomish forest. She lived on the planet of Een. She was kind of one with nature, and I think Druid came out of that, and the idea of like turning into animals, adopting animal forms, everything that happened with the bear in her childhood. So Druid really came out of Zach's character more than it did something that I was drawn to. It was my first real foray into D&D, so I was like, I'll take anyone, I'll just give it a go. And actually, Bard was a similar thing because Vixen was part of the Femme Fatales. So she had her kind of roots, and this is something that Ollie had given me. She had her roots in music. I didn't know that about Zach's mum going in because Ollie wrote a lot of Vixen. We almost kind of co-opted that together because he effectively had written the backstory of Zach's mom, and I just kind of put the rest of the flavour on her. So she was a bard because that was her role. That was who Vixen was as a personality, as a character. So both of Bard and Druid have kind of come more out of the character than they have out of just a general desire for a mechanic. But I'd probably like to go for like a barbarian, like Titus, or maybe a fighter, because we were actually having this conversation earlier, me and Jamie. Whenever I play From Software games like Elden Ring and sort of Bloodborne and stuff, I always go for the melee, I always go for warrior. I always go for like close combat. And actually, I never do spells. But in these games, spells are so vast and exciting that I always go for like a magical player. And I feel like actually going for a barbarian or like even a monk would be really cool, just to kind of see how like the melee abilities differ.
I think I do. That's the thing. I'd probably go the opposite, because like I enjoyed the barbarian early on, because it's like, right, we're in a battle. I'm limited in what I can do. We'll just swing the big sword, or we'll chuck a javelin, or we'll chuck something that's lying around at the person, or chuck the person themselves into a fire, for example. I think I needed that early on, because I didn't want to have Jamie going, use the fucking spells, knobhead.
You've got this really good spell. Yeah.
But now I'd be fascinated, like hearing you guys and talking about like spell slots and all this, and especially as we've leveled up and it's developed. I don't know what class I'd pick. I'm just looking at them now, like sorcerer. I'd have to look more into them. But yeah, someone who, I don't know what the benefits of certain, like rogue is, like I said, has already interested me. But yeah, I like the description of paladin as well. A holy warrior bound to a sacred oath. I love the sound of that. But yeah, anything basically that had spells is intriguing. But like I say, I was a bit worried, and I still probably would be a little bit, about either you guys or the listeners going, why didn't he use the blatantly obvious spell that would work with this? Like when we were fighting, it's funny when we're fighting things that I can't just go, well, I stab the big thing with my sword and I take off so many hit points. When it's like, oh, it's this, smoke monster or whatever, and I'm like, well, that's me taking a back seat in this fight then.
Is there a good fit for Adam, do you think, Jamie, that like is kind of spells but a bit of fisticuffs as well?
Paladin is a great choice.
There you go. There's your paladin, boy.
You are beefy, you've got big armor, you can cast spells, and your big thing is smites. So you can channel your spells into your sword attacks to make really big sword attacks. I think fighter would be good for you as well. So fighter it's not magical, but you can do, depending on which fighter you become, you can do special maneuvers. So you could do things like you could attack someone, but while you're attacking them, you can disarm them. Or you could push them back 5 feet or knock them to the ground. So you have all these additional maneuvers that you can do. Or you could just go a bit crazy, and you could multi-class. So I think a Hexblade Warlock combined with a Paladin would be amazing for you, because it hits really hard with the sword. But it has loads of spells as well. So
that sounds so dope, doesn't it? Yeah. But yeah, I think I'd probably try out something more beefy, more sort of melee brawny, I think. But I also quite like the idea of healing magic as well. I mean, I've never really been one to shit on the idea of the medic, the role of the medic, because you need them. So yeah, I mean, maybe I could try because clerics can have like battle axes and stuff too, can't they? Clerics can be a bit more melee, or am I thinking the wrong class?
So, technically my class is quite melee, but because I can fly, and again, it's one of these things that the story of Ark, I was either going to be called, so here's one. So there are 2 clerics I really like. There's a Tempest cleric and a Twilight cleric. So I was either going to be called Ark or Dark. For either of those 2, and I went for Tempest cleric just because of the backstory that Ollie had, kind of, and the world that he created. It worked really well with what he'd done. But if you're a Tempest cleric, you have heavy armor. And you can, and next level, I'm going to be starting to, if I have my melee weapon, I can charge it with electricity. So you can do some really cool melee stuff as well.
So you can basically be Thor, is what you're saying there. You can be.
I can't return it to my hand, but I can definitely give someone electric shocks when I slap them.
Oh,
so
it's not full on Mjolnir, but it sounds good. Oh, that sounds wicked. Yeah, the possibilities are
showing my age there. I thought of Raiden immediately.
Oh yeah, from Metal Gear.
From Mortal Kombat.
Oh no! So there's 2 Raidens, isn't there? There's 2 Raidens in video games. Yeah, look at us being geeky. But yeah, who'd have thunk, eh?
I've just seen on D&D Beyond, there's a Critical Role thing called Blood Hunt.
I saw that as well. Yeah, what is that?
So I've not watched much of Blood Hunters, just because the character who was going to be in Critical Role, the character who was the Blood Hunter, died at quite early level and then came back at a really late level. So I've not really seen an action, but basically it's like you can sacrifice your own hit points to power up your kind of like actions and things like that. Yeah, really cool.
Right, so it's almost like
I'd be too selfish for that.
My hit points are my own. Sorry, I'm not attacking anyone today. Yeah, almost like a blood transfusion for power, I guess. That's kind of where Blood Hunter
it's like oh gosh, what's the game? Bloodborne, Elden Ring, when you kind of like do your blood tinge stuff.
I was thinking
Kind of
about,
like
yeah, there is that thing, isn't there, where you can sort of use it to power yourself at the expense of your health.
Yeah. So like stab yourself with the sword, you cover it in blood, and then you are super powerful kind of thing. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Adam's quite Adam's quite tickled pink by that.
Next episode, I'll be like, Titus stabs himself in the heart and comes back as
He comes back as the and everyone's like, yeah?
I'll just heal you. It's fine, don't worry.
CPR. Oh, right. We got one more question in that was a
Good
bit of
question,
a
this.
random one, so we figured we'd save this one till last. This is from at Spag Policy Pod. This is What's Your Spaghetti Policy? These guys are an awesome podcast from Nashville in Tennessee, and yeah, they're really lovely, Jacob and Alex. So they've said, true to the spaghetti podcast handle, they've said, best bread to eat with spaghetti. So I'll let you guys dive in on that one.
It's garlic bread, isn't it?
I mean, that's the right answer. Correct.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. It's garlic bread. Of course it's garlic bread. I mean, would you have anything else?
When I first saw this, I thought, like, what? You're going to put, like, a tiger loaf with it and make a little spaghetti sandwich or something?
A little ciabatta. Yeah, I mean, personally, I think, I suppose, like, a focaccia, like a garlic focaccia could be good.
Yeah, again, I know you like these guys, Amy, but what a simple question. Like, why do they even bother to type this?
You could have gone bigger, guys. You could have gone bigger with that. But you have unlocked a bonus anecdote from Adam Wilborn, because he's going to tell us about the time he was sick with spaghetti, apparently. And I've just eaten spaghetti, so I'm so glad this is the order we're doing this in.
It's not the bread that got me ill, thankfully, but it was well, that wasn't the meat, I suppose, technically, because eating spaghetti bolognese a few years back, when I lived in Birmingham, I discovered my violent allergy to Quorn.
Oh,
my
God.
Girlfriend, now wife, made us some Quorn spaghetti bolognese, and I thought, oh, that's good, it's a good sort of healthy alternative, and ate it. It was lovely. And we went to the pub afterwards. We went to a pub quiz.
Yeah.
So I got back, and I hadn't drank that much. I had a few pints. I was like, I feel really like bloated here.
Yeah.
And then a couple of hours later, I was just vomiting everywhere.
Oh.
And I was like, wow, I either really can't handle my drink, or I've just had a dodgy pint or something.
Yeah.
Thought nothing of it. Really ill. Like everything in my body has to come out right now.
Oh my God, it purged you.
So, didn't think any more of it. Thought, well, I'm not drinking at that pub for a while now. So we ate the leftovers about a day later, and this time we just sort of stayed in, watched a film or whatever. And again, about 2 hours or so later, I was like, that feeling's come back in my stomach, and I don't think that's a bad sign. And as in between hugging the toilet, I googled, can you be allergic to Quorn? And then there was just page after page of like, you definitely can be allergic to Quorn. It's a fungus or whatever it is. And I was so ill that like the force of me, when there's nothing left, I burst the blood vessels around my, in the skin around my eyes. So it looked like I'd been punched in the face for about a week. People were like, what happened to you? And I was like, Quorn happened to me, never again.
That is what's even more mental. I'm not going to lie to you. That is exactly what I've just eaten. I have just had Quorn spag bowl because we have Quorn because I'm not really a big beef person. We don't really eat much red meat.
Yeah.
And I was the same as you. I always cook it because it's just a bit easier and it tends to be a bit cheaper and it's also better for the environment and better for you. But like, I've heard so many things about people, like even people who've gone veggie and eaten other things like jackfruit and they've been fine and they've eaten other vegetarian alternatives like Linda McCartney stuff, but then all of a sudden when they try Quorn it's just like what? Because like you say, it's a fungus, isn't it? It's something wrong. Something wrong with Quorn.
I told that story at a friend's house when we just moved up here to Newcastle. At a friend's house we'd gone to for dinner, and I watched the blood drain out of his face and him go, right, so I'll just get you a separate little takeaway then, shall I? Because the food that he made, I can't remember what he was making us, whether it was, corn sausages or whatever. He was like, so I'm glad you told that story now.
Oh, God.
I was thinking, should I tell it after dinner or what? And I was like, I'll just tell it. It's a funny little story. It's fine. And yeah, we were about 10 minutes away from me rolling the dice again with the Quorn.
As vegan experience, can I say you don't need meat, guys. You don't need a meat replacement. Just don't put any meat in it. Don't even try to replace meat.
Ooh.
Just put more veg in, then you're done. You're fine. Next problem.
Yeah.
Next issue. Jamie Powers solves the world. One issue at a time.
But yes, to conclude on that question, it's always garlic bread. And like the baguette, I always go with, not the slices. Come on, guys, what are we doing here?
Not the slices. You want the baguette. You want a whole baguette with it, and you want it to be
preferably a whole baguette each.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was being modest. You need a whole baguette each, and it needs to be really nice and crusty, but soft and buttery in the middle.
Can I just confirm we don't mean them like a baguette size, like a traditional French massive meter-long baguette.
Oh yeah,
you get those little baton ones, don't you? So you have like one.
I wouldn't say no.
Yeah, we're talking about the batons, if you're French.
Baton. That's and it has to be one each, doesn't it? And then it's just you basically have your garlic bread as the thing that kind of spoons the stuff in your mouth. That's it. There we go.
And then you don't kiss your partner for about 3 days after that. Normally, that's the general thing, right?
I mean, I've eaten it just before this call, so I won't be getting any action now for I'd say at least 48 hours, at least. But that is the final word on it, guys. Spaghetti is garlic bread and no Quorn.
Yeah.
Absolutely no.
There you
Quorn.
go. That's when we have our big D&D audience meetup. That is what we'll serve.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Jamie's gone to town, all the veggies in it. There's no meatless spag bowl. But yeah, that is awesome. Cool. All right. I think that kind of wraps it up, guys. You got any more questions or anything for each other?
Just can we do this more often without Ollie? It's preferable.
It's breath of fresh air.
He's a sneaky little bastard,
it?
basically.
Yeah, it's quite nice actually. I'm quite enjoying the lack of Ollie. Jokes, Bateman, jokes.
No, he's the best.
Yeah, he's wicked.
Editing all the nice stuff out, just so you know. Editing all this shit out. I'm just going to be like, how much
That's
we
why
ate
you're
Ollie right at the
keeping
front
quiet,
of the
because
episode.
you're just going to take it all, like throw me and Adam under the bus.
Yeah.
What do you think of Ollie? Oh, he's a muggy little isn't he? So there we go.
What's the thing that he always says as Quilly? You cheeky
Yeah, that's it.
I still need him to make me that as a soundbite for my text tone. Well, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out as always. If you want to follow us, we are on @DiceDeathPod on Twitter, and then is it the same handle on Instagram?
Yeah, it's all the same. All the same.
Everything. @DiceDeathPod on everything. I am Amy_Mallet now on everything. I changed my Instagram because I was sick of having to keep changing it saying it on Dice with Death. Jamie and Adam, where can people find you?
You can find me Jamu1987.
And you can find me @Adam Wilborn, and you can find our lovely DM, Ollie Bateman, @dead_8. But just don't snitch tag him, hey? There's no need for that.
Don't, you cheeky
Also, massive thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. It's been a very bare month this month. So thank you for all sticking with us. It's amazing.
The good news is Christmas is coming and things are going to get quieter. So we should be able, hopefully, to do some more stuff. Fingers crossed.
And everyone needs an excuse to get away from their family during this time
yes,
period of the year.
absolutely.
So, lots of podcasts, baby.
But yeah, no, that's a really good shout, Jamie. Thanks for bearing with us, guys.
Yeah, and if you want to support us, we have only one tier. You don't get anything from it. It's just £3. No, $3, sorry. Just $3.
Oh.
That's a pint. So if you fancy giving us a bit of your hard-earned cash, that would be amazing. But if you don't, that's absolutely fine. No pressure. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's only if you like the show and you want to support it. We're not
Yeah.
plugging anything. We're not selling anything. We're not going to hide things behind a wall for you or anything. But yeah.
Apart from
Much
those posts
appreciated.
that are hidden behind the paywall of the Patreon. Apart from those, which are quite
Well,
top quality.
you've got those. I thought they were seized by the police.
Our feet pictures. I've just got up there.
Shit. All right, guys. Until next time, we'll see you on the next episode of Dice with Death. I was going to say that again because it sounded like I forgot my own podcast. I was reading Dice Death Pod on Twitter. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining us as always, and we will see you on the next episode of Dice with Death. Say bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.